Hi, welcome to Help with Hannah Jones. I'm Hannah Jones. This is the podcast where I answer your questions, Dear Abby style. The video version of the podcast is on YouTube at Hannah Jones Cool. And thanks, Patreon patrons, for making this podcast possible. And thanks, Dude IDK Studios in Denver, where we are recording. There's a little bit of hail outside. If you hear a low hum, don't comment asking what that low hum is unless you want to help our engagement. No, that'd be terrible. I have a guest in the studio today. He's the host of a Degrassi podcast, and you might have caught his recently released Don't Tell taping. Give it up for BK Sherrod.
What up?
Hey, BK, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good.
Nice.
I'm on cloud nine. I cut my own hair today.
It looks great.
And did we have this conversation about how sometimes you'll think you want to kill yourself and it turns out you just need a haircut? Was that us?
That isn't us, but that has happened a lot of times.
I literally, and it's because I cut my own hair that this happens, but I'll just be waiting and I'll be like, my hair's getting kind of long, but I'm also trying to grow it out. So the question is, when do I give it like a trim? And then finally I'll be like, okay, I have some free time today. I'll cut my own hair, barely 20 minutes, little snip here and there. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I'm cured.
Interesting.
I'm actually cured of general existential crisis.
Okay.
Uncertainty about what to do with my life. Everything's fine.
It looks great.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed too because your hair is wavy.
Yeah.
And the fact that you kept it straight and even is very impressive.
Well, the thing about having wavy hair is that you don't have to keep it straight and even.
But I'm saying it looks straight and even.
Right.
Because sometimes if it is a little off, and then like if you straighten it or do a thing, it'll be like a little
totally. That's also full disclosure why I started cutting my own hairs, because I had like a few haircuts in a row. Especially at this length, it's really noticeable. I would come home and I would see in the mirror that one side was like half a centimeter longer than the other.
Yeah.
And I would have to cut it myself anyway.
Gotcha.
And then I was like, okay, well, I'm paying $80 to come home and cut my hair myself. I think I could have a faster and cheaper process.
Totally. Yeah. That makes sense.
But yeah. You got a haircut recently?
I think I did. I'm growing mine out right now too.
Nice.
So like, yeah, let's do it. I had like a mullet thing going on for a really long time, and then I grew out the mullet. Now it's kind of like a wolf cut.
Yeah.
But still kind of mullety. But I'm just trying to grow it like long.
Yeah.
Because I have good hair texture, and I've never just had it like super long. Because I always like cut it. I think like
you trying to get it to ponytail length?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to just grow it as long as I can.
Whoa, dude!
I'm gonna try to grow my hair longer than Matt Kobos. Look him up. He's a guy.
That's crazy. I don't think I could ever get my hair that long.
I don't know if I can because I'm too
life.
mentally ill. And I think I will cut it and try to like fix problems and stuff and cut it.
Bro, yeah. Well, that's kind of my story. Every time that I get really mentally ill for a while, I shave my whole entire head.
I was going to do that today.
Really?
Yeah, I was thinking about buzzing and going pink again.
Okay, this just in. For all the listeners at home, BK had a mental low today. But yeah, so I've buzzed my hair 3 times.
Okay.
And then I'll just like slowly grow it out, because I really don't like the way that I look at that hair length. I just like the sensory experience of not having hair anymore.
Same, dude.
Hair is so overwhelming, and sometimes if you're like you have so much on your plate and something has to give, the hair's the most logical thing.
Dude, 100%. I have the same thing. Because like right now, like I like how my hair looks, but it's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Just like all the time, like because I have a back tattoo and I have to put lotion on it, so I have to like lift my hair up and lotion underneath it.
And every time, and you feel it in the back of your neck, and you're like,
and then like the lotion gets on my hair and just everything.
Brutal.
And it drives me crazy. And so like I would love to, and also washing it is like a lot. And then I had to rush today to shower before this, so I had enough time for my hair to dry before I came here. So I didn't like come here and it was just like wet, you know?
No, having short hair is so like, it's so easy and freeing. I do think that's how men stay ahead personally. But I saw this tweet today and it blew my fucking brain, because I occasionally get the itch to go back to super short hair. I already have short hair, but like super short hair. I saw this tweet today that was like talking about how it had 4 pictures, 2 of Jennifer Lawrence and 2 of Anne Hathaway.
Okay.
And it was like 2 celebrities who cut their hair and were labeled as obnoxious, annoying, difficult divas, and then grew their hair out and had like a press tour renaissance where we all agreed that a few years ago we were too hard on them. Except obviously they didn't grow their hair fully to that length because their hair is so long now that it has to be mostly extensions.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've seen like all the Jennifer Lawrence stuff right now, but it's like, we love her again. She was on Hot Ones, and like now we find her cool again. And we hated her a couple years ago. And Anne Hathaway had the same experience.
Huh. Is Anne Hathaway back?
Yeah. I think we just hate women with short hair, personally. And I know that for sure with comedy, because every time I cut my hair, jokes will stop working unless I spend a lot of time making fun of my appearance at the beginning of my set.
Interesting.
That's where I learned how to start making fun of my appearance a ton at the front of my set. Was I shaved my head and realized that just everyone fucking hated me until I did that, and then I could get them on board. But then now I realize that since I look normal enough, I really don't have to do that anymore.
Do you have any jokes that don't work now that you have longer hair? Like, do you have like short hair jokes? Do you have like a short hair set?
I had one of my favorite openers of all time. I had like a pixie cut that curled really nicely, and I really liked the way it framed my face, and I would put some gel in it so the curls were really defined. And I would say I look like liberal arts Betty Boop. And that was fun, and it always went really well, and it really I think a lot of like Colorado audiences, if you get into a more conservative area and I can make a joke about how I look like I'm like kind of scary liberal, they tend to warm up a little bit better.
Totally. Interesting. Okay.
Don't have to do that in like New York or the Bay.
For sure.
In New York or the Bay, they're like, I don't know, you could have a gun. We don't. It gets way more liberal than you, bitch. Dye your hair blue.
Totally.
Put on a Pride t-shirt, then we'll talk.
Yeah. When I had pink short hair, the buzzed like pink hair, I had an opener where I said I looked like Kanye Middle East.
Yeah.
And then it used to crush. And then as soon as I like that joke stopped working, I'm like, all right, my hair is longer now.
Yeah.
And like I don't have that vibe anymore.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah.
I remember the first time that I like lost some weight, and a local comic in town told me that a fat joke that I was telling wasn't working anymore.
Interesting.
Because I am now perceived as fat, and I was like, oh my God, okay, thank you. And then I remember the first time after I was like gaining, because spoiler alert, anorexia, and then I gained the weight back, and I remember the first time that someone suggested a tag making fun of my weight again, and I was like, okay, this is where we're at.
Dude, it's so interesting because you know I host Don't Tell a lot of times, and if we do it in the gym, anytime I'll be like, hey guys, yeah, you should check this gym out. Sorry, someone's calling me. But yeah, you got to check this gym out. I work out here. And then if that gets a laugh, then that just determines my month.
Yeah.
It's like how I'm gonna like, you know. And if they laugh, it's like, I could work out. I just don't eat good.
I had a joke about potentially like being on top, and a comic suggested that I make a joke about how I know I look like I don't like cardio, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Dude. That's fair. You got to weather that shit.
Yeah.
Okay. But we've already talked a little bit about mental health, which is so appropriate because BK and I always talk about mental health whenever we're together. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a lot of what we talk about even to this day because it's such a fun way to connect. I really like talking about that stuff. And so I asked on Instagram for you guys to submit questions about mental health. If you want to submit a question, you can find the link in all of my social media. And remember, Patreon patrons get first priority answering their questions at patreon.com/HannahJonesCool. Alrighty, are you ready for some questions?
I'm so excited, yeah.
Hell yeah. Alrighty, here's your first one. I'm autistic, but like the incredibly good at standard testing and only a little awkward autistic. I mask pretty well and don't always tell people. In dating, how long is it appropriate for me to wait to tell someone I am on the spectrum? I date heterosexual women, so they are shallow and judgmental as all heck. Signed, On the Spectrum in the Springs.
Okay.
Do you mind if I go first for this one?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. I included this question because I woke up and I was in a great mood today, right? I cut my hair. We recall. And I was like, I am in a position to give this guy the benefit of the doubt and a little more warmth than you would always get. And I understand that a lot of people might think that it's appropriate to make a generalization like women are shallow and judgmental as all heck to me because they see me making jokes about men online. The difference, of course, being that those jokes are wildly hilarious and successful. This is neither a joke. This is neither a joke, nor is it appropriate, right? Because when I make jokes about men, I'm systemically oppressed by men. So I'm punching up and you're punching down here. You're not systemically oppressed by women. I can prove that to you, but I don't have the time and it's not that interesting. I'm going to assume that what's happening here is that you have a lot of pain and stress in your life. And perhaps the search for romantic love has been filled with rejection and loneliness, which is relatable. I've been there. Absolutely. I think everyone's been there at one point or another. And a lot of times when we're experiencing a lot of pain, we misplace the target of our anger as an outlet for that pain. And that's what is clearly happening here. But at the end of the day, I don't think you're ready to date women. I don't think you're in a place to date women because it doesn't sound like you like women very much. You say they're shallow and judgmental as all heck. Why would you want to have sex with someone who is shallow and judgmental? Oh, because you're shallow too. Got it. That makes sense. To answer your first question, though, when should you tell people you're autistic? I think probably pretty early, because what's happened so far is you've already had a pretty big misread of the appropriateness of what you said. Now, because of the context of the fact that you support my content and you watch my content and you're being vulnerable, I decided to give you the benefit of the doubt in your misread of the appropriateness of what you said. And I think that if this is a pattern for you, and I can't say whether it is or not because I don't know you personally, but it can often be for autistic people sometimes. If that's a pattern for you to generally misread the appropriateness of stuff, then that context will really help people understand whether they want to give you the benefit of the doubt or not.
I agree.
Thank you.
I think too, it almost sounds like he has like a preconceived notion about how someone is going to receive him.
Yeah.
In a way, and I think that's never good, because if you're just like, hey, they're not going to receive me well because this group of people is this way.
Mm-hmm.
But also, this other thing too, if there's a common denominator always happening with you, then you might be the common denominator.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's like important. I'll say this, man, because I've been love obsessed in the past. Like when I was younger, like probably like, because I was an only child. And so I was like, okay, one day my parents are going to die and I have to make my own family. So I became like love obsessed, where I'm like, I have to find a wife and like have kids. So that way when my parents die, it won't hurt as much. And because I'll have my own family. Because like I think I saw like my dad's dad died. And I was like, oh, but we're with him. So he's like less upset about that, you know, kind of thing. And so I started really being hyper focused in relationships, and just that's all I wanted. And I would just like try to date people, but just wouldn't. And I think there's like, I just didn't have anything going on myself. So I think if I were you, I would just stop worrying about relationships as much and like get into something to take your focus off of it. Yeah. And then when you have your own thing, like then that'll come. It's like you have to let go a little bit.
And we're assuming that you're having trouble in relationships specifically because you're describing women as shallow and judgmental. Yeah. And so either you just hate women for no reason, or this is me giving you the benefit of the doubt. You have been hurt a lot and are quite lonely, and that's why you're kind of like lashing out.
And I think it's an inward thing. I definitely think, because if you have that common denominator again, you're just like, it might be something you have to work on. And that's why I recommend doing other things other than dating. Just have fun. Just join meetup groups. You sound like comics, you know, just start doing open mics. And
I wouldn't be surprised if comics admitted this.
I also would not.
Yeah, but it sounds like you are fairly self-aware, and aside from saying an unkind and inappropriate thing about women, it sounds like you have a lot going for you. You're good at standardized testing, so you could probably, you know, get into college or grad school, stuff like that. Only a little awkward. That's great.
Play Magic the Gathering. I just got into that. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You play Magic the Gathering, you will be the most socially gregarious one there. That's what happened to me because I was homeschooled growing up. And I was the outgoing kind of like I wasn't always the popular girl growing up, but there were definitely years where I had that vibe that like I was the socially gregarious one. I remember my friend once asked me to hang out with her and the guy she liked cuz she's like, "Please, please come when you're there. That's like it's not awkward." And when I told a more recent friend that that was me in high school, they were like, "What the fuck?" What happened to you since then? So yeah, it's always nice to be surrounded by more autistic people.
Yes.
I say that as someone who I've not been diagnosed with autism, but I am a white woman, so I kind of theorize, obviously. Okay. Here's question number 2. I think we crushed that.
All right, love it.
Question number 2. I'm a 20-something who is finally financially safe and has a loving, chosen family. I also have complex mental and physical illnesses. I feel like my brain just doesn't hold joy like it should, even on medication. I look at other people's lives and joy and feel like something is broken. It makes it more complicated that I'm polyamorous, so it's a lot easier to feel insecure. What helps you hold joy better and stop obsessing over comparisons and not being as good or happy as other people?
Damn, did I write that? 'Cause that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I always felt like
Yeah,
that.
I still feel like that all the time. Like I went to a housewarming party the other day,
Really?
and it's like an old friend group that I used to be like really close with, and went to like we traveled together and all that kind of stuff. And I was sitting there, and this couple was talking about their honeymoon, and they were talking about hikes they did, and like they're like, oh, and if you ever on the Big Island in Hawaii, you gotta try Kona Brewing. They've got the best hazy IPA I've ever had. And I'm just like listening to them talk about this, and I'm just like, man, I thought about killing myself 4 different ways driving over here today.
4 different ways?
Well, not today. Well, also today, but this was
Okay, top 4
different.
ways to kill yourself. Go ahead. No, I'm
Ooh,
just
yeah.
kidding.
Volcano is number 1 for me. But anyway, doesn't leave a mess.
Well,
But
good thing they're giving you Hawaii tips.
exactly. I'll try that hazy IPA. But I do feel like when I hear people have conversations like that, and I'm just like, wow, they don't have to think about anything else. They're
Yeah.
just like, oh, they worked. Now they're gonna drink. They're gonna go on this hike. They're gonna do their thing. And I'm very jealous of that because I feel like the things that bring me joy are so much more complicated because of what we pursue, like doing
Yeah.
comedy and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think with comedy, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Oh, I was
'Cause-
so much mentally healthier before I did comedy.
Yeah.
I used to, oh man.
I was
Ugh.
not personally.
Yeah.
And one of the weird things that comedy gave me, because I always thought that it was just like I had this, and I also grew up in a situation where my anxiety and depression was explained by like me just not, I was just such a negative person. That's what I was told a lot.
Totally.
That's what I was told in lieu of getting any like help or
Yeah.
medication. And it's chill now. I've made peace with the people who told me that. But in Christianity, that is kind of the understanding of mental illness, is that it's like you're letting the devil in too
Yeah.
much, and it's 100% personal responsibility. And then I kind of grew up and I still felt like that a lot of times. And then I met comics and I was like, oh, I have so much more of a capacity for joy than all these motherfuckers.
100%.
Like these guys are so unhappy all the time.
Yeah.
And I realized I have this like kind of grand theory of positivity that everyone just kind of has like a set level of like how sensitive they are to positive and negative stimuli.
Yeah.
And like if you're really sensitive to positive and not that sensitive to negative, then you're going to be seen by me as like chill. My perception of you is that you're going to be so chill, so happy, but perhaps like I see that as like naive or simple because I have more of a sensitivity to negative stimuli, and they're going to look at me and they're going to be like, God, she is a downer. She just like doesn't have the willpower to look at things more pleasantly. And I just think that a big part of human compatibility on a friendship and a romantic level is finding people who you're at a similar vibe with, who you have the same capacity for like positive and negative shit.
I agree. I think too, like the biggest things you like said, like condensed into like just like 2 words or sentence, whatever thoughts. Um, Having community
Mm-hmm.
like that have shared values. I think that's something too. If you have people in your life that are very not on the same page all the time, it'll cause a lot of dissonance. I feel like where you're
Yeah.
constantly feeling like you're fucking up or you're doing the wrong thing, or whatever. Um, and then the other thing I think is gratitude is just practicing gratitude. That's helped me a lot. Where like every day, like I just think of like 10 things that I'm thankful for, and like they're like simple things like my dog, or like my car or like whatever. Just like something that day where I'm like my hair looked good or like blah blah blah. So I think practicing gratitude is very good. And yeah, and just comparing yourself is a nightmare. I think taking social media breaks, especially if you don't have to be on social media like for your job, like why even do it? Just take
Yeah.
pictures and put it in a scrapbook and then look at it later. But like I do feel like taking social media breaks cuz if I take a week off of looking,
Yeah.
I feel so much better cuz I'm not constantly thinking about what's happening out there. Everything I'm experiencing is just like around me.
Yeah. Have a weird experience with social media where it's given me a lot more positive than
Interesting.
negatives. Like I've just like connected with a lot of cool people, and I'm pretty
Mm,
good at like I just mute a lot of stuff. If it's going to like trigger jealousy or comparison, I just don't see that stuff. Um which I highly recommend. So my social media feed is like genuinely just stuff I'm interested in. It's
that's
more like
cool.
Reddit really.
Yeah.
But I agree, bottom up. You have mental and physical illnesses. Start with the comfort of your body and those kinds of like more concrete stuff. It feels almost like you're like shaming yourself for this very high level concept that you're like broken and can't perceive joy the same way other people can. And I think that that just sucks that you're putting all that pressure on yourself, and I don't think it should be a big part of the question, especially if you can like find people. I guess I wonder how much the people around you are making you feel bad for not being
Mm,
as positive as they are,
totally.
because I've met some polyamorous people in my day and some of them are totally chill and a lot of them are toxic positivity
Totally.
people. They're all yoga, they have
Mhm.
rich
Ugh.
parents, and their problems, I'm not saying that they have no problems, I'm saying it's an unrelatable to me experience of life.
Mhm.
You also said it makes it more complicated that I'm polyamorous, which I know this is a weird grammatical correction, but I think it's important. People talk about being polyamorous. You're not. You're in a polyamorous relationship. It's not a sexual identity.
Yeah.
But you're in a polyamorous relationship. It's a lot easier to feel insecure. Makes me kind of feel like perhaps this polyamorous relationship is like not serving you as well. Has monogamy served you in the past? Has it potentially served you better? I think it might be a good time to sit down and ask yourself whether this polyamorous relationship is serving you. But you're certainly not polyamorous as an identity because that doesn't exist. You're not like polyamorous the way someone would be gay. You're polyamorous the way I eat a burrito, and I can be done with burritos at any time I want
Mm.
if the burrito's no longer serving me.
That's a good point. I feel like I've never been in a polyamorous relationship. It seems really, really hard.
Yeah.
It seems like almost like impossible just because of how many moving parts there is. And when I think about like my relationship and how difficult it is just to maintain that relationship with one person, doing it with multiple people sounds really difficult and taxing.
That's my perspective of polyamory too. And I will say that a lot of the people who I know, who I'm friends with, who have done polyamory and love it, it tends to be their thing.
Like they're
Like
like
that's
yeah,
their
that's
hobby.
their comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense to me like, oh, your hobby is having boyfriends.
Mm,
I don't have time for boyfriends, so I'll just have one.
totally. Huh, makes sense.
But yeah, it doesn't necessarily sound like polyamory is serving you well if it's triggering a lot of insecurities. That's one weird thing that I really don't like about a lot of polyamorous people is they'll be like, if you're feeling insecure, that's good. You need to work through that and like vanquish that demon within you. And it's like, or you could just put yourself in a situation where you don't feel insecure.
Yeah. I
Because
think
lots of
everybody's different.
monogamous people just don't feel insecure ever.
I think it's weird to like put everybody in one group. That
Yeah.
like if that way of life isn't work, because like I think some people are like can handle that and some
Mm-hmm.
people can't. But I think it's like you said, because if that is your thing, where it's just like, okay, I go to work and you know you do that, and then the external parts is that type of relationship communication. Because some of the people I've known to be polyamorous too, like there's a lot of like communicating and like almost
Yeah.
like meetings where you have to like talk
Yeah.
about like how everybody's feeling and stuff like that. And I just yeah, I it really truly seems very hard. And so yeah, I agree with Hannah. I think that might be taxing you in a way.
It also, like, if you have complex mental and physical illnesses, it does just sound like you have a lot going on and you have a lot of things that you could potentially, places to put your time and energy. And polyamory is also a place that takes a lot of time and energy. So maybe being single would be a good, I mean, anytime I feel like you're feeling insecure in a relationship setting, I just always kind of think the answer is being single, because every time you're single, you just find yourself in a deeper way and you find your self-worth
For sure.
again. But I don't want to project all that on you. I know very little about you. I would say stop shaming yourself. Make sure you're not consistently around other people who shame you. Because that's a big thing for me. Sometimes I'll be around people who make me feel like I'm such a Debbie Downer. And then I'll go do comedy and I'll be like, I'm the most positive person here. I'm fucking awesome. I have an incredible capacity for joy. And so that's just how I like to design my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crush that one too.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
We're killing this. We've cured so many mental health issues today. Okay. This one's a big one. Big,
Alright.
complicated one.
Ooh,
What
it.
would you do in a situation where you're friends with both people in a couple that splits up?
Ooh.
I was friends and roommates with the guy in the relationship and introduced the two of them. We moved into different spots shortly after they started dating. They dated for almost a year, broke up. While they were dating, I became better friends with the girl, but now she's gone psycho mode and thinks no one should be friends with or nice to the guy. It seems like she forgets that we were friends and roommates before they started dating. I've literally known this kid for like 5 years, LMAO. If I hang out with the dude, she would probably rip my head off. She already is a pretty tumultuous person, so I'm thinking it's a good time to back out of the friendship with her. But do I just stop hanging out with her or tell her that she's a fucking psycho for trying to control who her friends hang out with?
Damn, this doesn't seem that complicated.
Really?
Yeah, I genuinely like that person. She sounds really tough to deal with, and especially in the situation, like she sounds like she's not handling the breakup well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like her thing.
Do you want to know what's so interesting?
Uh-huh.
I think this is a little bit of a gender thing.
Interesting.
I read this and I was like, here's my secret theory of what's going on.
Oh, do you think like
she was like,
her friend thinks that she wants to?
This guy cheated on me, or he broke my heart, or he got really weirdly verbally abusive at the end, and it would just feel like a betrayal if you were around him. And then whoever's writing in was like, yep, she's gone psycho mode, everybody. Another classic woman going psycho mode.
See, I think I just took what she said for face value.
Well, and remember, the person who writes in, I'm 90% sure, is a dude, because I've never heard a woman refer to another woman as going fucking psycho mode. They're always like, she's being really weird and like hard to be around, but they wouldn't say fucking psycho mode.
See, I thought it was a woman based on the situation.
Does it change your idea of what's happening?
Yes, it does. So, okay, so he was friends with the guy, then became friends with the girl.
Over the course of dating.
And then now she's going, okay, yeah, actually now it does change it. Because before I was just like, yeah, that
she's a psycho.
Not even that she's a psycho. It's just that like it sounds like she wasn't handling the like breakup well.
Yeah.
And like, you know, let's say everyone was clean in the breakup, like nobody cheated or like, you know, anything like that. Then it just seemed like it was kind of like, yeah, okay, that actually does change everything.
It's also interesting because you were like, you said you didn't get to know her until after they started dating.
Yeah.
But you introduced the two of them.
Uh-huh.
So is it a chance that like she perceived you guys as also being friends before you got together, and you just didn't, maybe you thought of her as like a B-level friend and this other guy was the A-level friend, but maybe she thought of you as an A-level friend, and so that explains why she's so betrayed by the idea of you wanting to continue your friendship by, it sounds like she's convinced this dude wronged her. and I'm not here to say whether she's right or wrong. There's
Yeah.
quite a possibility that she's acting irrationally here. I would describe it as irrationally as opposed to psycho mode because I think that's quite disrespectful. But if she's acting irrationally, then you should not want to be friends with her on the grounds that she's acting irrationally.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Not on the grounds that you can't hang out with you. I like decide whether you want to be friends with each person based on that person and their behavior alone.
So that's why I originally came up with what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Is because it seemed like in this situation they said this person was already tumultuous like before that as well.
Yeah.
So it sounds like from what they're saying that they don't want to be friends with that person to begin with. But also it sounds like they said that at the end and they're trying to figure out whether to tell the person. I mean, I think you could tell them. I mean, I don't know, like a year long. I guess yeah. I would be like, hey, like, you know,
I would also at the end you're like, do I just stop hanging out with her or tell her that she's a fucking psycho for trying to control who her friends hang out with? I think that's a huge misread of the situation because in her mind, whether or not she's acting rationally or irrationally, in her mind, I promise you, she's not trying to control who her friends hang out with. She would assume that all of her friends, after hearing how this dude wronged her, would simply not want to hang out with him anymore because he's a bad person. Now, straight dude friendships don't tend to work like that.
yeah.
They tend to be a little bit more like, this is my buddy Jim. Jim killed a couple people, but we've known each other for 5 years.
Interesting. Yeah, it's so crazy. I thought that it was a woman writing in, and that's why
And
I
it
was just
could
like,
be.
yeah.
I'm not confirmed.
If it is a woman writing in and it is just face value, everything that they're saying, because it's funny, because even like psycho mode, like I didn't like I wouldn't take that as gendered speech.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, yeah, dude, Jim's psycho too. He's being insane, and I can't hang around him because he's being too weird and like, you know, incel-y about this breakup right now. But yeah, I think yeah, it sounds like this person doesn't want to be friends with the girlfriend of the breakup, and
I would say just phase it out. Put up some boundaries.
I was gonna say that too, because boundaries, especially because like you can't have somebody. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we need more context on like what the breakup is, but I think you're right. It sounds like the girlfriend of the breakup feels like uh slighted in some way, and it's like a betrayal to hang out with that guy.
And if if she is truly acting super irrationally and is super out of touch with reality, and if she's hurting people and being quote unquote crazy, the person who's going to hold her accountable to that and possibly help her grow is not going to be the person who's like contemplating whether he wants to even be in her life. It's going to be the person who's actually a close friend and is going to level with her and be like, hey, I think you need to rethink how you've been acting. But it doesn't sound like you're down to be that person regardless.
And you don't have to be.
Yeah, and it's certainly not your job. But I would say it's definitely kind of mean to keep someone in your life if you have this little respect for them. Because the way you're talking about her, you fucking hate this bitch.
Yeah, it's also not like good for you either. Like, you know, it's not good for anyone involved. I think, yeah, you should definitely cut it off. Probably just phase it out. Next time they hit you up, like, hey, can you hang out tonight? Can't. Got plans.
Yeah. But I would bet my life on the fact that she feels she was wronged in a way that is great enough that warrants other people holding this dude accountable.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if she tells your whole friend group, can you fucking believe that this guy's still hanging out with him after what he did to me?
100%.
And a lot of the other girls might also have that opinion.
It actually does make more sense that it would be a dude writing it now that you're saying it too, because I think in that situation, women typically would be like, hey, like, fuck that guy. Like, if he is being like a piece of shit, and dudes are more likely to be like, hey, wait, you know?
This could be a girl who's just like not a girl's girl.
That's
like,
what I was gonna say.
Very clearly a girl. Like she's going fucking psycho mode. I could never.
It's like camaraderie. It's like usually there's more camaraderie in the situation. So yeah, now that like you said that, I'm like, okay, this might be a dude.
Either way, you guys are incompatible as friends. Don't be friends. But yeah. Okay. Last question.
Cool.
I think we crushed that again.
Yeah.
Last question. How do I explain to new people that I very much struggle with my mental health without adding baggage to the interaction? Example, I struggle to follow up and or may come across as distant and such.
No, make jokes about it. That's the best way to tell someone
What
you're
kind of
mentally.
jokes do you use?
Oh, someone's like, "Hey, how's your day going?" And go, "Ah, living the dream," stuff like that.
That's just a normal response. That doesn't that no one would find that to be a joke until later in the conversation where you're like, I thought about killing myself in 4 different ways when I came
Yeah.
here.
Um, I don't know. I think like also that type of intimacy, I feel like comes later on in a friendship. Like for me, like I
Yeah.
think like that's not like a like when I met you, we had plenty of normal conversations before we both connected on like mental illness and like our
Mhm.
anxiety and stuff like that. So I feel like um let's say if I meet someone, I'm not
Mhm.
gonna tell that person what I told you, like about I thought about killing myself like 4 different ways. But once we get close, then I can make jokes about it or like whatever, and like close friends either will be like, "Hey, you doing all right?" Or they'll know me well enough to be like, "Oh, he's goofy ass. Like he'll be
Yeah.
fine in like 2 weeks after he like goes to the gym and eats better again." Like stuff like that. So I think like you don't have to tell people
Totally.
like and the texting thing too, because that's the other thing too. When you're getting to know somebody as friends, it's a lot like dating, where everybody texts different. Like
Yeah.
Eland, one of my best friends, I don't text him because I know he's either not going to respond or I'm going to have to explain so much stuff that he doesn't need to know.
Yeah.
Like he'll just like I'll be like, "Hey, do you want to get food at this place?" And I'll tell him where it is. You like, do they have indoor seating or so? Like he'll ask me like a question that I'm like, who cares?
Do they
Like
have indoor seating? No, it's a food truck, Elon. They
yeah,
don't
like
have indoor seating.
it's like yeah, if you want to drive,
It's
like yeah.
famously Sonic. Like, what are you talking about?
So I have friends like that. They'll skate out to you if you want to say yeah. But I have
Totally.
friends like that where the communication is specific in that way. And then
Yeah.
I have friends like Sam Yanzer, like Rosalie, or Sam Sisson, who all like talk on the phone for like
Yeah.
hours a day.
Yeah, no, Sam Sisson is like a full conversation
Totally.
through text. I tend to mirror a lot of what I'm getting. And it also just happens to be like how busy I am.
Yeah.
Like if I'm too busy with work, then texting conversationally during the day
Totally.
will feel like a huge burden.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Adding context about struggling to follow up is like one thing, but I think a lot of people say, I like, let's say that I'm like annoyed because someone is like not responding to me and they're like,
Mm.
"Oh, I'm not responding to you for mental health reasons." And it's like, "Oh, word. I don't really like give a shit."
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think you were not responding cuz you're like cruel and a bad person. I was like, I don't care why they're not responding, but I do need a response personally for whatever I'm trying to accomplish. So it's like, and I don't need someone to be good at responding to be in my life,
Yeah.
but I need someone to be good at responding if they expect to get invitations to do shit. So like I
Mm.
have friends who have the type of mental health issues that makes them really bad at responding. I don't make a lot of plans with those people.
Yeah.
I love them very deeply. And I will always love them. And if they initiate plans with me, I'll be right there. But I'm not going to initiate a lot of plans if I feel like I'm going to like feel that kind of rejection.
Totally.
So it's like, I don't think you necessarily need the explanation. The person on the receiving end is either going to be like, totally fine, like, "Oh, I didn't notice that you didn't follow up. I don't always respond to questions super fast." Or they're going to be like, "Well, I don't care what the reason is. In a friendship, I want someone who follows up quicker."
Totally.
I think that it'll come up when it comes up, and I don't think that I think your idea of like explaining it earlier so that you're less likely to get rejected for that reason is like, well, some people just need someone who's going to be responsive.
Yeah.
And that's okay for them too. No one's a bad person just because you're not compatible.
Yeah, and I think friendship is like dating too, where like you go on dates and there's not chemistry and like your values don't line up, and then you just not gonna be friends, and that's okay,
Yeah.
So it's like, but yeah, I think too, it's just like yeah, if you're someone that doesn't respond, like if you don't say anything and that's just how you are in the beginning, then I'm like, oh, that's just how they are,
Yeah.
and we don't have to,
Same.
I don't have to, I'm not gonna be like, there's no context to compare it to. Like if you text back every time and then suddenly you stop, then I'm just like,
Totally.
huh, what's going on?
Oh, that's true. If it's like, when you say very much struggle with my mental health, if it's a thing where you're like, I entered a deep depression, if something changed, if your behavior changed, I think absolutely throw in a sorry about that. I like
Totally.
went through a really rough time.
Yeah.
But I think really rough time is enough. I
Yeah.
think it should just be based on the level of intimacy that you have at that point.
100%. Like, yeah, if it's like a friend you just met like a week ago, like, and it's like, sorry, I didn't text you. Like, yeah, I don't think you would notice. Like,
Yeah.
I meet people all the time, and then like I won't hear from them for like 3 weeks, and they'll be like, hey, I'm so sorry I didn't respond. Like, I didn't even notice.
Yeah. Okay, sick. BK, what do you have coming up that you'd like to plug?
Ooh, I'm taking this week off. I'm gonna play a lot of Magic the Gathering.
Well, this won't come out until next week, but
Well,
hell
so I
yeah,
just
plug your
took this week
magic.
off, and it was probably sad, but I don't know. Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Insane Brown Posse. Please follow my Don't Tell taping and watch it every night before you fall asleep.
Every night.
And every morning when you wake up.
Throw a like and a comment on that. Those clips can be really meaningful. So give them some engagement.
Please.
Share them. They're very hilarious jokes. They're some of my favorite.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Insane Brown Posse, and I am available at Hannah Jones Cool everywhere except for TikTok, where it's at Hannah Jones Cool 1, because my first account got banned because I accidentally said I was 12.
What do you mean you accidentally said you were 12?
Like when they asked for my birthday, I put the wrong year in. And so then they were like, well, you can't watch this content because you're 12. And I was like, well, I'll make a new account then because I have got to see the adult content.
I thought you like did a bit where you're like, hey guys, I'm 12. And then they're like, whoops.
No.
Cool.
Sick, thank you so much for watching. Remember, the Patreon is $3 to sign up at patreon.com/HannahJonesCool, and have a wonderful week, everybody.
I'm subscribed. You subscribe too?
Absolutely.